Hey, Yaakov.
Hey,
Good evening.
Do we have any, besides, I saw that Rashid is not going to make it. Do you have any indication on who we expect tonight?
I didn't receive an updated list from Khalid before I left. Rich was a maybe, Rich Hiller,
Yeah.
but not a guarantee, I believe.
All right. And what about Rashid? Not Rashida.
Tessa,
Tessa?
I didn't receive an update on Tessa. Give me a second. I'll be right back, Yaakov.
Hey, Mike. Yeah, me, you want to check in with Tessa?
Yeah, just give me a minute. I'll be back.
Thanks. Should be starting in a few minutes. I just want to wait to see if Tessa's going to join us. And Gladys. Are we just gonna wait 2 more minutes and we're gonna start? I apologize for the delay.
Sorry, Yakov, I'm back. Tessa said she'll be on in a moment or two. Just give her a minute. She's about to log in.
Right, who is the 212 number? Is that is that Ben? Ben, is that you? How do you?
No, I'm on Benjamin Shannon.
I see a phone number. Is that? Oh,
I
Ben
requested
Shannon.
that
I see
they
it.
Hi,
mute.
good evening. Hi, good
who's it?
evening. I don't know if I'm unmuted. I'm responding to your question about the 212 number. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, hi, good evening. My name is Jen Harris from Resonator Services, and we represent an on-premise liquor applicant, YKA Sports Bar and Grill, Inc., over at 467 Rogers Avenue, and my client should be on the line here as well.
The client is here. Thank you for clarifying who you are. That's great.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And if you need to mute me again, I'm not sure what the buttons are.
All right, so I think we could actually, I see the test is here, so I'm comfortable starting this meeting because we have another member of the committee with us. I see we have 8 participants. Let me just pull up the agenda over here. All right, so again, thank you all for joining us. We are very lucky tonight to have with us. We're going to open up the meeting. We're lucky to have Detective Michael Beretta with us from the 71st Precinct. He's going to give us a quick update on some crime in the neighborhood or some positive stuff happening in the neighborhood. I understand you made 71st made a very, very successful gun bust last week, if I read correctly on Twitter. And if you could tell us about that. I also want to bring to your attention, Detective Tessa and Rashida made a request last month that we have rotating every month different NCO officers. I want you to address that as well, what you think about that. And I'm gonna, after you, I'll turn it over to Tessa to take over from there, because I know she had some points she wanted to make as well.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Detective Mike Beretta. I'm a community affairs officer at the 71st Precinct. Excuse me, for no uniform, I'm calling in from home tonight. I had to do an early shift today because the mayoral-elect came to PS 161 and on Crown Street, and I had a visit over there. So yes, first of all, to address the NCO issue, I think that's a phenomenal idea. I think it's good for the board and the community to get to know their NCOs, and I think there's really no better way than for them to have rotating shifts and give sector updates and sector specific issues to the board. Going forward, I guess we'll just go in alphabetical order. We'll start with A, B, C, and D, and then we'll start it over again. A, B, C, and D. To touch on the gun, the gun arrest that you were talking about. So we've had a pretty successful week and a half. 10 total confiscated firearms, illegal firearms in the past week, 5 incidents. So there were 5 arrests made, total of 10 illegal firearms confiscated. The one specifically, and that's in the past week and a day, 8 days. The one specific that you were talking about that you saw on Twitter was 6 illegal firearms that were confiscated. And it appears that the person who was arrested had intentions to sell the firearms up here. The firearms were all purchased in the South. I believe it was Florida, and they were legally purchased in the state of Florida, and they were driven up here with the purpose of distribution, resale. It was actually very good police work. Police were called to a domestic incident job between an elderly family member and a younger family member. The elder family member did not want to be admitted to the hospital. They wanted to return home to their residence, and the younger family member was being very was suggesting that the older family member stay in the hospital and that they don't return. So the older family member felt like he was being kind of forced to stay in the hospital. So he called 911. The police responded. And as they're talking, as they're interviewing the older family member, he says that he was menaced with a firearm, meaning the younger family member's boyfriend pointed a firearm at him and threatened his life. So through some means of investigation, we were able to determine where the firearm was last placed. And, ultimately we were able to locate the 5 other illegal firearms, including the one that he was menaced with, all in the same area. And we made a good arrest on that. So some of the crime stats, I want to give you, the crime statistics year to date. We're coming to the end of the year now, almost wrapping up as we get closer to December. And we've had a pretty successful year thus far, the 71st precinct. The way we gauge our successfulness in crime statistics is we gauge them off 7 major felonies: murder, rape, felonious assault, robbery, burglary, grand larceny, and grand larceny autos, which is car thefts. So year to date, versus last year to date, we have 2 murders for the year of 2021. Last year at this time we had 7. So that's a 71.4% decrease in murders overall. Rapes, we have 21 versus 19, 21 this year versus 19 last year. So it's a 10% increase, two more rapes than last year. Robberies, we have 105 robberies year to date versus 119 last year, which is 11.8% decrease. So we're down in robberies and murders. Felonious assault, 285 year to date versus 302. That's a 5.6% decrease. Burglary, 90 versus 128 for last year. That's a 29.7% decrease, which is a large decrease for burglaries. Grand larcenies, 252 versus 263, which is a 4.2% decrease. And grand larceny autos, 108 versus 111 last year, which is a 2.7 decrease. All year, we've had a trend of stolen cars throughout the precinct, and it was something that was very concerning to us. We try to get the message out there, mostly delivery drivers or people that are just running to a bodega, a corner store. They leave their car running for 2 seconds because they don't want to shut the air conditioner off in the summertime, or they don't want to shut the heat off in the wintertime, or they just think it's only going to be a second. And before you know it, they come out and the car is gone. So all year we've kind of been trying to stress to get that message out, and we've been doing some outreach, and we were able to turn the year around. Ultimately, we have year to date 4 less grand larceny autos than we did last year at this time. Also, another category that we also measure is shooting incidents and shooting victims. So year to date, we have 27 shooting victims versus 44 shooting victims last year. That's a 38.6% decrease in shooting victims year to date in the confines of the 71st precinct. And shooting incidents, we have 24 versus 27, which is an 11% decrease overall. So as far as violent crime in the 7-1, we're down across the board. Unfortunately, except for rapes, there's 2 more this year. And other than that, always around the holiday time, the holiday season, always we see an increase in package thefts from properties. We really advise you to use Amazon lockers or get the signature, or utilize the UPS store, or some other type of location that they can secure their packages in. Otherwise, it's an opportunity crime where people, especially around the holidays, they go around following UPS trucks, they go around following the postal service until the package care deliverer drops the package, and then they immediately go in and take the package. So we strongly advise that. Also, property left in vehicles is another big issue that we're seeing right now. People are leaving expensive property, $500-600 pocketbooks, wallets with $300 cash, credit cards, sunglasses that are worth a couple $100. Your car is not as secure as your house. You really should not be leaving valuables inside your car, especially when they can be seen in through the windows. So an individual will just go along pulling door handles until they find one that's left open, and they'll clean out the property. So I mean, that's another opportunity crime that we're seeing an increase in. So, but that's also something that the public can do to help prevent. By if you take away the opportunity, there's less likely for the crime to be committed. And that's pretty much the update for now. unless you have any questions that you'd like me to answer.
First of all, thank you, Mike, for coming again. I see we have a board member, a committee member, Pamela Yard, that has a question. I know that Tessa probably wants to say something as well.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Berman.
Before I just turn it over to, I'm going to turn it over first to Tessa, then we're going to go to Pamela. Mike, I'm interested to know because I've had packages stolen from me. Somebody asked last year stole a case of water. A case of water is about $6 and very, very heavy. And I couldn't believe it. I got the footage. Somebody actually walked off with a case of water, which is unbelievable. My question to you is really, what happens when we do catch a package thief? I think one of the issues in Paradise is we see people committing the same crimes over and over again, and there are serial package thieves in the neighborhood, or serial people that are breaking into cars. So first of all, why is that, and what can we as a committee do to change that? Because if somebody is stealing packages for 2 years over and over again, something's wrong with law enforcement or with the legal system, that they just go back to doing it, and apparently the punishment is not. They're not scared of being caught, and maybe you have some thoughts on why that is.
Yeah, I do have some thoughts on that. Traditionally, these types of crimes are committed by the same offenders over and over again. There has to be some type of knowledge of how to fence the property. So, a $300 pair of sunglasses to somebody, to me, is not as valuable. I mean, what am I going to do with them? I'm either going to wear them, or what am I going to do with them? These people fence it. So they have networks that are already set up where they can sell the property for money. And that's why it's usually the same offenders over and over again. But to answer your question, prosecution on property crimes in New York City has not been strict since I've been a police officer. So for the past 12, 13 years, petty property crimes really have never really been prosecuted to the full extent. But the reason that you kind of are seeing an uptick now is also because of some of the policy changes in the bail laws. Whereas 3 years ago, if somebody was arrested for the 50th time of breaking into a vehicle and stealing property, they may be given a $500 bail or $1,000 bail, and that would ultimately keep them in jail until their trial came up. There is no more bail for these types of crimes, so they automatically get released, and then they go back out and they may repeat the same offense and get arrested again, and then they would still not be eligible for bail. They would still not have to post bail. They would get released again. So that's one of the reasons that you may be seeing an uptick in these types of petty crimes.
Thank you so much, Detective.
You're welcome.
Tessa?
Yes, thank you, Chairman Berman. Good evening. Is that Officer Barretta, B-A-R-E-T-T-A? Detective.
Detective Barretta, B-A-R-A-T-T-A.
Oh, B-A-R-A-T-T-A. So it's not like Barretta, the 1980s TV
yeah,
show.
I know. I get that a lot.
You get that a lot. Okay. You're a good-looking detective, by the way.
Thank you.
So the female, officers might, whatever. Anyway, never mind. That's irrelevant. So thank you for joining us this evening. Coming to the Public Safety Committee meeting of Community Board 9. Because of perception and what's bantering around in the news media, I'm glad to hear that CB9, or the parameters of the 71st precinct, is not as dangerously ensconced as someone's perception might indicate. So and so I feel very good that you're willing to come and share some facts with us. And I'm glad that you're also open. You or your unit is open to coming to the board, because I think what we hear, Chairman Berman and myself and co-chairperson Sadiq, we would be not as well equipped to report to the board. And I think they would feel much better if, someone from the 71st precinct do come by once a quarter, every other month, bi-monthly, whatever, which really translate to about 6 or 7 appearances a year, to share with them so that they can say they heard from the 71st precinct what the landscape really looks like for the district, as opposed to just a generalized fear of and pandering to, fear mongering for, what's going on, generally in the city. So I'm very pleased to hear that. And I'm glad to hear your willingness to come and communicate to our board members.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for having me, and thank you for having me in the future.
Thank you, Tessa. Pamela?
Yes, hi, I have a question. All right, I live on Sterling Street between Bedford and Washington. This week, we already had like 2 items stolen off of people's property that were delivered by UPS. Also, we had a few car break-ins. But what I don't see now that I used to see is I don't really see any patrol cars patrolling the blocks like they used to. Like, you just see I haven't seen a police car drive down this block like in 3 weeks, except the other day when they took the lady's stuff off of her stoop.
I can't give you, I don't have the facts in front of me. I don't work for OMAP. OMAP is the management, planning, and personnel for NYPD. But I can tell you that the numbers of the NYPD are lesser now than they were 10 years ago. So I know at our precinct specifically, we do have less manning than we used to. That probably adds to the reason why you don't see as many police cars as you used to, because there aren't as many police cars as there used to be.
Okay, and one more question. Could you repeat the numbers for grand larceny
Sure.
for this year and last year?
Sure. Grand larcenies year to date for 2021 this year is 252 versus 263 last year. So that's a 4.2% decrease.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Are there any other questions for the detective from the community or from anybody else on this call? Does anybody have any questions? Now is your chance.
I don't have any questions, but I'd like to introduce myself. I was in the Parks and Recreations meeting. How you guys doing? My name is Maximilian from Elite Learners. I'm the community liaison here. For those of you guys who don't know, we are an anti-violence group in the community that are keeping, violence down to a minimum. We are in contact and communications with Officer Barada. We've worked many nights together, but our main focus here is to target at-risk individuals who may cause violence or retaliate to violence and try to mediate between that. And so far, we've been doing pretty good. We've been getting great response from the community. We've been keeping in contact with the 71st via Detective Barada. And we've been just trying to keep the violence down as well as bring resources. We have a community event coming up. We have a brunch with Santa coming up. I would be more than happy to give you guys the information towards the end of the meeting, but I just wanted to introduce myself.
Well, thank you so much for joining and introducing yourself. And I think that the best way to give information is to give it to the office, and that way Mio can email it, because it's hard to at a meeting to remember dates and future events and everything. I just want to suggest, Tessa, we spoke about this in the past, that maybe we should, together with the board office, create some sort of newsletter where we give these statistics out, because the statistics that Detective Barada gave us, we could really, obviously it's nice he should come in person as well to the full board once in a while, but I think if we send out an email with the statistics, it also would be very helpful for people that are seeking information regarding crime in the neighborhood or regarding good things in the neighborhood.
Chairman Berman, that's certainly a good idea. I don't know that we should add to the workload for Assistant Mia Hilton. The board doesn't have a newsletter, but perhaps It could be added to the report for the Public Safety Committee for the review of the board prior to the meeting. You know, there are some board members that are stickler to getting things ahead of time so they could read it and be able to ask questions about it. So perhaps, you know, together with, you know, District Manager Dante Irwine, we can figure out how to get these statistics out, because I think it would be helpful for the board members to know. But I think at least in response to the inquiry that I received from a committee chair and a newer board member, if we at least have him come once in a while, you know, because we do need to respect his time, you know, I think that would be a good thing. I think it would add some public safety flavor to the public speaking portion of the board meeting.
Well, the good news is that Detective Arata said he's happy to come and he's happy to coordinate NC officers to come as well. So that's, you know, we're on the right track, and thank you for suggesting it. I want to move on to the next item on the agenda. Just quickly, we spoke last month about doing an alcohol awareness campaign and working with local elected. And I have a meeting this week on the 14th with Kings County Hospital to get a feel on some of the statistics. It's always good to have data. I'm going to try to get data on alcohol incidents in the hospital, and I'll bring it back to the committee next month. And they've also agreed to partner with us on this project. So I will keep everybody posted. I want to move. It does not appear that we have quorum, but we do have 2 committee members here. I want to move to the new application. If I see that there are 2, there's both I believe there's a lawyer on the phone, a 212, and the owner of the establishments. I do want to say before we open up that I reviewed. I'm going to turn over ask you to introduce yourself and talk about your establishments. I just want to say that I noticed in your application that you did not have the required signatures, 25 signatures needed. Now, because you're a full liquor license, I do not believe that I should make a decision whether or not to give you a pass on this. What I'm going to suggest is, and then maybe other committee members could give their input, is that before you go to the full board meeting, you do get the required signatures. That way, really, according to our past policies, we don't hear applications that do not have 25 signatures. Because of COVID and other complications, we understand it was hard to get signatures. But you do have, I don't know, 5. When's the board meeting, the full board meeting, Mia?
It's Thursday, the
The
16th.
16th.
So you have a week to get all those signatures. I would suggest that when you come to the full board meeting, you do have the required signatures. And that way we don't have to vote on giving you a pass. Otherwise, you'd have to vote whether or not to make an exception. But if you get the required signatures, then I think it will be okay. If you don't have the required signatures, I have to bring it to the attention of the board, and the board has to decide whether they want to give a lot of support to an application that does not have the required signatures. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay. Now I'm going to turn it over to you, but I just want to say I noticed a discrepancy in the application that you say at the beginning of the application that there are 3 establishments that serve alcohol within 500 feet. And then on the questionnaire, when it asks how many SLA licensed establishments are there within 2 blocks, it says 0, if I remember correctly. My recollection is the New York City block is typically 264 feet. I also looked at Google Maps and I saw 2 to 3 establishments within a block from you. So I'm just wondering if that's a typo on the application. Did I misread something? Maybe one of you want to address that?
The first one I saw, I don't know if it was a full liquor license. I didn't know. So I went there before I went there to buy food, but I didn't go to the bar. I didn't know.
I don't think the question is a full liquor license. I think the question is, are there SLA licensed? I'll pull up the question. I think the question is, are there SLA licensed establishments within 2 blocks?
Within some block.
No, it should be corrected if it's a mistake here. Let me pull it up. Hold on. Here, why don't you talk a little bit about your establishment while I'm pulling it up?
My establishment name is YKA Sport Bar and Grill.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear us? Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Hi, good evening. This is the representative for the applicant, and I'm happy to just go ahead and give a quick introduction. And then Mr. Louis Fritzner, the owner who you just heard, if you have any questions for him, he can definitely answer those. But I just want to make sure that you can hear me okay, because I don't think I was unmuted before.
We hear you very clear. We hear you loud and clear. Can you
Beautiful,
clarify
thank
this
you.
discrepancy before you give an introduction?
Absolutely, I'm happy to do that. So first, to your point about the signatures, thank you for the consideration. We will not need the exception. The applicant will provide the 25 that were needed. It was a little bit difficult. He went on multiple occasions to the neighbors and he wasn't able to gather the 25, but we appreciate the courtesy and we'll make sure to get those to you before the next meeting.
All right, also, there's also, I see that your hours of operations is 8 a.m. to 2 a.m. Your signature page says 1 a.m. So when you get the other signatures, I think you should correct it from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m., which is would reflect.
That was correct, yes. And just overall, I would like to say, you're going to see all of those little updates. The applicant had originally requested 1 set of hours. Upon further consideration and expanding his menu a little bit, he did want an additional hour. So you can expect the updated questionnaire addressing the fact that there are 3 on-premise liquor licenses within 500 feet, which is the regulation. They look for a 500-foot radius at the liquor authority. So there are 3. We would be proposing to be the 4th. You can expect to see the hours as 2 a.m. We are open to 1 a.m. The applicant would like the flexibility to go until 2 a.m. because he's going to have a lot of food, which I'll get to in a moment. And then finally, as far as the kind of the method of operation. So to give you a quick overview, we will be doing business as YKA Sports Bar and Grill, Inc. This is a one-owner corporation owned by Mr. Louis Fritzner. We are proposing a beer, wine, and liquor license. We will have a maximum occupancy of 28 people.
Beer,
so it is
wine,
a small
beer, wine, and liquor, or full alcohol? You said beer, wine, and
beer, wine, and liquor. So a full liquor license, including beer, wine, liquor, and cider. Cider is included in the license. Whether Mr. Fritzner wants to do that or not, he'll decide as he opens the business. But we will be a full liquor license. It is, as I said, 28 people. It's a smaller, more intimate establishment, if you will. We are proposing 1 stand-up bar, so meaning 1 bar where drinks and cash would be exchanged. We will not have an outdoor area nor outdoor seating. We're proposing to have 5 to 6 employees, which we hope to hire locally. As far as entertainment, the premises is properly soundproofed, and
you do know on your application says you're not hiring locally. So that's going to be corrected.
No, that's something. Yeah, we'll correct that. That's something that he discussed, and after going to get the signatures, he decided if he can, he will hire locally. Of course, it depends on the availability of the staff, but he'd love to have people locally. As far as the entertainment, we are proposing a DJ and jukebox, and again, the premises is properly soundproofed. As far as the footprint of the establishment, it is 1,100 square feet. And the reason for the earlier hours, we're not really, although we want to have the entertainment, this is not to focus on nightlife. If you notice, he's proposing to open at 8 in the morning. So he also wants to have breakfast available for his patrons. So he's really going to be serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And again, all of those details. Originally, he wanted a beer and wine license. I don't know if the board has the records in front of them, but we apologize. That's kind of where the discrepancies are coming from, because he wanted beer and wine. He wasn't really clear on the final things he wanted, but we've ironed all of that out now, and we'll make sure to get you the updated details. The questionnaire does ask a little bit about experience. So Mr. Fritzner, while he has not owned a previous liquor licensed establishment, he is a chef, or a cook rather, over the past about 5-6 years now at a location in New York City. So after taking that experience with him of being in the restaurant business, he really wanted to do something on his own, and he's very familiar with this area. So he really liked the location to implement what he wanted to do. And we'd also like to point out that this premises, based on Liquor Authority records, was also previously licensed. And we're going to be receiving those details of the prior licensee from the Liquor Authority if the members are interested in that at all. It just takes a little bit of time to get that from the state.
License is beer and cider, correct?
Correct. The prior licensee was beer, wine, and cider. I think they may have wanted to pursue full liquor, but then they didn't continue with the lease. We're going to be gathering all of those details directly from the state.
Right, and you're not going to be serving liquor 8 o'clock in the morning, I assume, right?
Oh, no. I don't think anybody wants liquor at 8 o'clock in the morning. It's certainly not the clientele we want to bring in. No, we will not. Mr. Fritzner, if you want to talk about when you would start serving the alcohol, I think you're going to focus more on serving the alcohol during the lunch and dinner hours. Is that correct? I don't know if he can hear me, but for sure, no, he's not going to be serving the alcohol
Right.
At those early hours. He might do mimosas and drinks for brunch, but nothing too early.
All right, so I'm going to turn it over to the other committee members. I just want to, again, your application did state there were 3 other SLA establishments within 500 feet. The discrepancy was when asked about within 2 blocks.
Within the 2 blocks,
there were
they
0,
are within.
which is a mistake.
Yeah,
I'm
they are within the
correct. You're also going to correct before the next meeting both the times, hours of operation on the signature page to reflect 2 a.m. and update the signature page to have 25 signatures and 25 addresses. You're also going to update the application to state, or you're going to, whether it's in writing, you're telling us as a committee that you're going to attempt to hire from within the community your employees. That's also correct, right? I understood correctly?
That is correct, yes. We're going to
If
make
you
that
could
effort.
send those over to the office, those corrections, you said email Mia tomorrow with those corrections. So even if you don't, I don't know what's the policy? It has to be a new application or an email is sufficient?
As far as your policy or the SLA
I'm asking
policy?
me what the office policy is.
Oh, okay.
No, we would love to see updated documents.
Perfect. Well, we'll do that for you. You can expect those tomorrow morning. I'll just reconvene with my client, and we'll make sure to get that all out to you, Mia. And you'll have it tomorrow.
Sure.
Excuse
Thank you
me,
very much.
Chairman Berman, just for a point of clarification, Mia, do you want an updated application with the additional information, or do you just want the additional information that will be added to the current application?
It's corrected information.
A corrected application would be more appropriate. That would have the current and correct information on how the business will operate and the license that they are pursuing currently.
And perhaps we should state that for the record for Mr. Fritzner's attorney.
Thank you very much, Ms. Akinbiera.
Tessa, thank you. Tessa, do you have any
Understood,
questions
thank you.
for the applicant or for the attorney?
No, not, well, Chairman Berman, is there a policy? I mean, are we sounding overcrowded there with beer and wine and liquor for liquor licensing? It'll be 4 of them, sort of.
Well, I didn't know.
Sounds like 2 blocks.
I don't
from
think
each other?
it's for full licenses. They're gonna be full. Are you aware of whether the other establishments are a full liquor, or just beer and cider?
No, no. So that's one of the reasons the initial discrepancy occurred, because he wanted to go for beer and wine. And anyway, to answer your question, they are full liquor. I'd like to point out two things. Number one, as far as the oversaturation, everything is held by the liquor authority. They're going to go through a hearing through which an administrative law judge decides whether another license can be issued if Mr. Fritzner is bringing something new and different to the area than what's there already. And we definitely think we are. By comparison of the competition, we're also focusing on the breakfast crowd. There's, for example, the Owl Music Bar is one of our closest establishments, and they're only focused on entertainment. But again, to answer your initial question, those three are full liquor per the 500-foot rule.
So, Ms. Attorney, so those three are full liquors, and the reason why I'm teasing it out, and both our co-chair, Ms. Siddiqui, and Chairman Berman will attest, we have a cadre of finicky people on the board that gets the nitpicking about liquor licensing. So I just want you to put you on notice around, with regard to that.
Well, I think it's a valid question. I don't think, I'm interested to hear, actually, your client originally was contemplating having a beer, wine, and cider license, and then he decided he wants full liquor. And I'm interested in hearing, what is the need for a fourth establishment with full liquor in a 2-block radius? I agree, it does sound a little overcrowded.
Sure, I'm happy to address that now. So with the full liquor, he wants the ability to have the distilled spirits, not for your typical drinking for people to come in and chase down a bunch of hard alcohol. This was more to focus on having cocktails as well to complement the menu. And we'll have a list by list of what the competitors are doing. So just to give you a quick overview of the three closest establishments, we have Gold Room BK LLC, the Gladys Venture 2 LLC, and the Owl Music Bar LLC. They, I believe only one of those establishments is maybe doing like a lunch, whereas our applicant would also be doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. If you look at his menu, he does have, he's added to the menu to have it be more extensive. And really the alcohol is meant to complement the cuisine, which is why we were asking for 2 a.m., which you're aware that the closing hours in New York City, in the 5 boroughs, you're able to close up until 4 a.m. We weren't proposing those hours because he's really not looking to attract a heavy drinking crowd. This is really more to come in, have something to eat, and the alcohol would complement that. And as far as switching from beer and wine to full liquor, I mean, I think everybody knows how difficult it is to do business and stay in business currently, not just in this industry, in the bar and restaurant industry. Every industry was hit, but the full liquor does allow for that extra revenue, which as a business owner, of course, that's a consideration as well.
Chairman Berman, may I?
Of course.
Yes, Ms. Attorney, and forgive me, I'm trying to be as respectful as I can to you because I don't know that I heard your name mentioned. I would seriously encourage you to be at our board meeting next Tuesday and be prepared to explain a lot of this on behalf of your client. I mean, I just, this is coming from a professional place of love. I noticed that, he maybe be living with a speech impediment, and our board members get very technical. So it would be helpful for you to be there to, quiet the storm.
Yeah, no problem. We'll
just
do
as
that
a
for
point,
you,
as a point of helpful information. Because I don't know that he'll be able to, to explain to our, our board members in the same capacity and way that you obviously can.
No, we'll be happy to do that. And he, I mean, he came up with what we believe is a very good business model. He stands behind it, but we'll make sure to be there to assist as well. Absolutely.
Very good.
Yeah, and I just want to, Tess, I just want to add on again, I really think that as board members, it's, people that may oppose or object, there have been applications that came before the board and somebody opposed it for because the landlord did something 10 years ago that had nothing to do with the applicant. That would be unreasonable. I think in this case, there is room for healthy conversation on whether or not that we want to encourage additional liquor licenses, full liquor licenses in a 2-block radius. As much as I recognize the need and the challenge of a small business for, to succeed in this environment, especially with COVID and the additional staff and everything going on, I recognize that, and I applaud you for opening a business despite the challenges and the risks. I applaud you, and I want you to do well, and we want you to succeed. That said, I do have some concern about 4 full liquor license establishments in a 2-block radius, more about the message and less about the actual alcohol being served. Because if you could get it, if there are other establishments there, if somebody really wants hard alcohol, they'll cross the street. It's not a problem. It's more about the message we're sending the community by having so many establishments in this area. And the solution is, by the way, in my opinion, not that you not open it, that you're really strict and well-trained about the issues and the challenges, and you run your establishment in a real professional way. No alcohol to underage, and anybody who looks even remotely intoxicated doesn't get alcohol. I'm not saying that you can't open. What I am saying is there is room for healthy conversation and concern.
Yeah,
Pamela,
absolutely understood. And I appreciate the feedback. That's exactly what he's going to be doing. We've actually even talked about possibly implementing security if needed, but he really doesn't feel that that's needed because of how he's running the establishment. He's opening for breakfast. He's really not garnering that kind of crowd. But of course, I mean, an ounce of prevention, right? So we're definitely open to that. And I would just like to submit that the licenses that I'm talking to you about, they span from, I'm just looking at my map here, what is this, Midwood all the way up to Lefferts. So you're talking about radius, which I understand, but it's a 4-block span. Just anyway, yeah.
Well, thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah, it's not, because I would agree. I mean, in this area, that'd be a bit much, but it is a 4-block span there. We included a map with our supporting documents, but I'll give you something else a little bit more visual tomorrow so that you get an idea of how long these other licenses have been there as well, because I think that'll be helpful to show the history of these 4 blocks.
Well, we appreciate that. And as I said, our committee has always encouraged small businesses, especially during these challenging times. Pamela, do you have any questions? You're good. All right. Is there anybody else that may have any questions? So
Rashida, does Rashida have any questions?
Rashida's not on.
Oh, she's not on. Okay.
Yes. Okay, so we do not have quorum tonight. I apologize. We made an effort to have, we do not have. So but we are going to vote during the full board meeting. You could be in touch with Mia and she'll give you all that information on how to attend the board meeting, sign in information. And as Tessa said, we'd appreciate if you both participate and come to the meeting and answer any questions.
Absolutely, we'll do that. And I do just have a question. I know that sometimes you don't have these details in advance. So we have an idea of what time that meeting would be on the 16th?
It starts at 7 o'clock, and I believe you would be closer to the beginning of the agenda. Is that correct, Mia?
Okay.
Yeah, I believe that the SLA applications are the only presentation items for December agenda.
Okay, that's perfect. Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate it, and we look forward to speaking to you again on the 16th. Have a great evening, everyone.
Do me a favor, Google Community Board 9 before you come to the meeting, so you'll learn a little bit about so nothing will surprise you when you come.
Oh, no, we've had the pleasure of presenting through you
Pleasure.
before. It's been a
Okay,
little
good.
while, but we do this a lot. So yeah,
All right, well,
it's been a pleasure to present before. Thank you so
not,
much.
not a problem. Thank you for joining us. But
Have a
is
good
Barbara
evening.
with Gladys or? Me, is anybody here with Gladys?
I haven't seen them. I haven't seen their rep.
Is Barbara a committee member or just a community member?
I believe just a visiting community member.
Well,
Give me
I'm
one
just a
moment.
community, I'm just a community member. I was
Not
just,
just a community member, you are a community member.
I am a community member. I was just, this is my first time in this table. I want to know about the neighborhood as far as it was talking about, policing. So I was curious about that. Cause I'm just listening to see what's going on, because I don't have any input. I just was listening to see how it was being handled.
Well, we really appreciate and applaud you joining us tonight, and I think
Thank you.
community participation is great. And if you do have input, please feel free to share it.
I definitely will. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll close the meeting. I will be meeting with Kings County Hospital on I believe it's the 14th. Mia will be in touch with Mike about having an NCO officer come for the January meeting. And are there any other items you want to address, Tessa, or?
Yes, 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 Chairman Berman. We have some guests, but I mean, this isn't really a secret per se, but I believe it was last week, one of our board members who lives in the Ebbsfield apartments sent out an email to us. And I was just wondering what was the follow-up to that.
That's a great question. I appreciate you bringing it up. So we got a email from the head of the Ebbets Tenant Association.
Who's also a board member.
Beverly Newsom. And in the email, she brought it to our attention that there are issues with lighting around Ebbets Field. So I followed up with an email to her asking her to address where those issues are. She didn't respond. So I picked up, she was actually inviting us to a meeting at Ebbets Field to see what was going on. So I picked up the phone to her the next day to follow up, and I told her, Beverly, we all agreed that Ebbets Field is, we want to keep it as safe as possible. And there's a need to have lighting. Are the issues that you are bringing to the board's attention, are they landlord tenant issues that there needs to be lighting at the land, or are they city issues?
Yes.
She said that both. She said that the city has put weaker lights in the streets, and as a result, the lighting for the landlord is not sufficient. So I recommended to her, I asked her, have you made any complaints, or have you reached out to the city or to the landlord? She said no. So I said to her, the first step is for you both to reach out to your landlord and for you to make a complaint to the city, either through the board or through 311, because we're going to go down to the Ebbets Field and meet, and you're going to say the landlord needs to put lighting. I'm not calling the landlord until you call the landlord. You have to call the landlord, say this is what's needed. If there's a refusal, then we could call and say we want to support this request. But before you make that ask, there's no place for us to be involved. And she agreed. I do not know if she spoke to the landlord. She did send me 2 311 complaints that she made to the city, and I forwarded it to the office. Mia, did you see those complaints?
Yeah, her lighting concerns were at the corner of McKeever and Sullivan at that intersection, which is truly an issue because there's a stop sign, there's traffic issues, and it's an immediate elementary school there. So it's
Mia,
a substantive complaint.
is the office going to follow up with the city about this lighting? Can they follow up?
Definitely. I believe Dante already sent that information over to Diana Soriano, who is the DOT liaison for Community Board 9.
So that's great. So how about at the next meeting, if we could have an update to give the committee on how these issues were addressed, or if we had any response from the city yet?
Not a problem.
Thank you.
Chairman Berman, may I?
Of course.
Yes. Is it possible, Assistant District Manager Hilton, for that whole the concern that our board member Beverly Newsom brought to the Public Safety Committee, is it possible for that to be codified and for the response from our chair, as well as what the board has initiated in terms of resolution that will be available for Ms. Newsom to see in black and white, as well as everyone else on the board? Is there a place for that information for the issue and the Public Safety Committee response via our chair, as well as resolution in what the district manager and the board office has already put in action?
Most definitely. I'm working on the minutes now, so I'll have them in tomorrow afternoon. They'll go out next week with the agenda in preparation for general board. It will note Beverly's inquiry, the board's efforts, and as well as the committee's chair's response. And it also includes Mike's statement of the PD stats for the district.
That's great. Thank you.
Very good. And that will all be encapsulated in the Public Safety Committee report, correct?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Cooking with public safety gas right now.
I know.
Tessa, thank you for bringing, I think it's important that we document that we're responsive to community concerns, and I really appreciate that you brought that up. I completely, even though I dealt with it the next day, I completely forgot about it. And I truly appreciate that you remembered and you were on top of it. Thank you.
Well, yes, Chairman Berman, the fact of the matter is that, well, that's my personal opinion, but the fact of the matter is that I believe that there are forces who want to see the Public Safety Committee become more proactive around community issues, as well as just an expansive understanding and reporting of public safety issues and concerns within the purview of the board. And so for anything that's brought to our attention, for anything that we choose to do and that takes us out of our comfort zone, which is just really surrounding liquor licensing, we have to, I believe, report back to the board and let them know, because they're pushing a pace.
I agree, and I think that I support those efforts. We should be more proactive. Pamela, Tess, we're going to close our meeting. I'd like to ask maybe elite learners to close our meeting, give us some inspiration, something inspiring, some story of positivity. We could end the evening tonight. There's so much darkness in the world. We heard all these stats. From my perspective, it's great 71st brought down murder and brought down shootings. It's unfortunate that rape went up, and rape in general is complicated because who knows how much of it is actually reported. It's a lot of it that goes unreported, but we're in a lot of darkness. The amount of shootings and murders in this neighborhood there shouldn't be a single murder in Crown Heights. There shouldn't be a single rape in Crown Heights. There shouldn't be a single act of violent crime in Crown Heights. And because of people like elite learners, they go out on the streets, they do prevention. That's why we're heading in the right directions, but we want to be in a place where there's just light. So I want to ask you to end up the meeting with a little positivity that we could move forward with, we could live with for the next 30 days to our next meeting.
For the next 30 days and for the next, until the next meeting, I just want to let you guys know that Elite Learners is here, for everybody. And we're here for anybody. I don't want it to seem like, we're just catering to just a certain community, but our catchment is from Empire to Clarkson Avenue, from Nostrand Avenue to Flatbush Avenue. So, Miss Pamela Yard, I did hear your concern about the break-ins. I took that very personal. I happen to live on the corner of Sterling and Bedford.
Okay.
So I'll have some of my guys come patrol the neighborhood, between the hours of, let's say, I call it 10 p.m. to 1 a.m.
Okay.
That way, we can have a sense of community, a sense of safety, at least for our cars anyways, because crime has been down in the neighborhood, which I have been noticing a lot. But you know, the petty things such as the car break-ins and things like that, and the stealing of properties and gifts from porches and things like that, due to the season, we can up our presence in the neighborhood.
Is there any way possibly I could get your contact information and maybe you could come to our next block association meeting, which it should be next
can.
week. Next
Okay, I
Monday.
can definitely leave that with you. I can definitely.
Why don't we
I
do that
can-
to the office? Yeah, why don't you provide Pamela with Elite Learners contact information? That way,
Okay, our office is located at 581 Rogers Avenue.
Uh-huh.
That's between Winthrop and Hawthorne.
Right.
We're open between the hours of 10 a.m. and 11 p.m. every day.
Okay.
Brother Maximilian,
Yes, ma'am.
this is board member and Public Safety Committee member Tessa.
How are you doing?
Thank you. Tell me if I'm getting the wrong impression.
Okay.
Is from the original presentation for Elite Learners, I had an innate sense that the focus was on gang violence. Is that generally?
So the focus is on violence and in its entirety. Gang violence just happens to be a larger part in our community. So that's where the focus is, and that's why it may seem like that, but we focus all over. To better answer your question.
Oh, okay then. Thank you.
No worries.
well, thank you all for joining. Happy holidays. Stay warm. I know we have some cold days coming ahead. And it's great that we all are coming together in common cause, and we should continue to do that. Thank you all. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
All right.
Good night.